Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm Sebastian Andrew, and this is story time. Today's story is more about portals, because to me, portals are a very important thing. There's a lot of them around. I mentioned that. The church seemed to enjoy building churches on them. One portal that I mentioned in the last video was a forest. Well, I looked it up. While I'm not going to try and pronounce the name, because I do not wish to offend anybody by mispronouncing it in their language, um, if you look up the Bermuda Triangle of Romania, no doubt you will find this forest. And then once you have the correct spelling of it, you can look it up on Google Earth and see that there is indeed this blank spot in the center of it, and that they've built this lovely fence around it to try and keep people out. Um, if I was able to travel and that's one place I would want to go, would be there. Um, Another place I'd like to go is the Gateway of the Sun. That's unfortunately that's a portal that will never work again because it broke during an earthquake, I believe. And you find lots of pictures of it. The interesting thing about it is there's all the carvings on one side and almost nothing on the back side, except for two openings, which I think is where they put whatever they used to energize it. I've never done a really, no, I take that back. I did a deep digging on it years ago, I mean, ages, decades ago, but where my notes are, no one knows, so I'd have to start over again. I don't know if they found any evidence of crystals or anything else that might have gone in those niches, but it would be interesting to see, or for someone to try and build it again, um, and see where it goes. I don't have the place for it, and I don't think I can afford the stone, so we're kind of stuck there. Anyway, another idea of portals is part of a story that was given to me by an entity that I housed for many years. I called him Edgar, and that wasn't his name, that was just what I called him because I couldn't pronounce his name. He was a falcon-headed being, um, mostly a man, arms, legs, but the head of a falcon, which is very close to a couple of Egyptian gods, um, one of which is named Khonshu, and Khonshu was the god of time. Now, not overall time, Khonshu was the god of man's time. He was the god of how long man stayed upon the planet between birth and death. So that was his word I can't think of. I suffer from that once in a while. Anyway, Edgar told me how they came to Earth originally. And it's a really interesting idea when you stop and think about it. But Edgar told me that they came in a ship about the size of the moon, our moon, and they came through Jupiter, which, when you stop to think about it and you see all those lovely storms floating around on Jupiter's face, you get the idea where the portals are and where all those satellites came from that circle around Jupiter. Um, So they came through there, and they came to Earth. And unfortunately, for a short period of time, we had 2 moons in our sky and a great flood. When they realized what they'd done, they sent the ship back to Jupiter to circle there and came in something smaller. And that's where the Egyptian god mythologies come from. Now, one thing Edgar told me, aside from how they got here, was that when they got here, the pyramids were already here. The Egyptians didn't build them, they adopted them. It's interesting to me that a number of cultures did that. They came to this world, they found places they liked, they found places they enjoyed, like the idea of crossroads. They came here, they sat down a picnic, and they decided to stay. And then somebody decided to shut the door. So they were stuck. Now, that's one idea of how some of the races came. The other idea is that the primary reason they shut the doors was because Earth is a prison. Like Australia was to the British. We're just a bigger prison. And the world was filled, well, not filled, but some of the areas were filled with what other races considered their criminals and their malcontents and people who needed to be deported, exiled. That's where some of our races came from. I've already mentioned the Anunnaki, and they created the slave race that was supposed to strip the planet of all it was worth and save it for when they returned. I don't think they've returned yet. But that idea is still here. They're still stripping the planet. Pretty soon there won't be any planet to strip. We'll end up looking like Mars. Anyway, that's the story for today. If you've enjoyed today's story or any of my stories, please click on the link in my profile and drop me a tip. I don't care how much. I'm not going to give you a suggestion. However much you feel I'm worth. But please, show me some kind of appreciation. I'm Sebastian Andrew, and this is Storytime.